Welcome, dreamers, to a world where the night whispers secrets and stories unfold under the stars. This is Mr. Snack, your sanctuary for peaceful nights and magical tales. So, dim the lights, snuggle up in your blankets, and let your imagination drift away. Tonight, we're about to embark on a journey through a story that will calm your mind and ease your soul. Are you ready? Let's begin. The rise of the last Titan. In the beginning, before the stars had found their place in the night sky, before the winds whispered their ancient songs, there was only darkness and endless expanse of void. Out of this void, the first gods and titans were born, beings of unimaginable power who shaped the world with their very will. The gods ruled the heavens, while the titans, colossal and untamed, shaped the earth itself, forging mountains, rivers, and forests. But as time passed, the gods grew envious of the titans' strength, for the Titans controlled the primal forces of creation earth, fire, water, and air. The gods, with their desire for supremacy, waged war against the Titans, seeking to strip them of their power and place themselves as the rulers of both heaven and earth. The war between the gods and the Titans raged for eons. The heavens trembled, and the earth itself cried out in agony as the Titans were defeated one by one. It was a battle of titanic proportions, the very fabric of reality bending under the weight of the struggle. But in the end, the gods emerged victorious. The remaining Titans were either imprisoned or destroyed, their essence scattered across the cosmos. All but one, Asterios, the last of the Titans, survived the god's wrath. He was not slain in battle, nor was he bound in chains. Instead, he retreated to the heart of Gaia, the very soul of the earth itself. There, in the depths of the earth's core, Asterios stood vigil. The power of Gaia flowed through him, and with it, he could feel the pulse of the planet, the heartbeat of the world. His duty was clear: protect Gaia and ensure that the primordial energies of the earth were never again threatened. For centuries, Asterios remained hidden, his name fading into myth and legend. The gods, believing the Titans to be no more, continued their reign over the heavens and earth. The world flourished under their dominion, but beneath the surface, the balance of power was slowly unraveling. The gods, blinded by their ambition, sought more power. They began to drain the very essence of Gaia, disturbing the ancient harmony that had once existed between the earth and the cosmos. It was Zephyros, the god of wind, who first sensed the disturbance. The winds were restless, whispering of a change to come. There was a stir in the very air, a tremor of something old awakening. Zephyros, ever the harbinger of change, saw an opportunity to reshape the world in his image. He called upon Erebus, the god of darkness, who had long been brooding in the shadows of the cosmos. Together, they sought to break the seal that had kept Asterios hidden, to unleash the darkness of eternal night upon Gaia, and to claim the power of the Titans for themselves. But they had forgotten one thing: Asterios had not been idle all these years. He had grown stronger, nourished by the ancient energy of Gaia itself. He was no mere relic of the past. He was the last Titan, and the last hope of restoring the balance between the gods and the earth. Asterios had long forgotten the taste of battle, the roar of cosmic energy crashing against his bones. His days of war had seemed distant, buried deep within the vaults of time. Yet, when the winds began to stir and the shadows of Erebus began to stretch across the land, Asterios felt a stirring within himself, a call that could not be ignored. Deep within the heart of Gaia, in the vast labyrinth of caverns and untrodden paths, Asterios stood motionless, his colossal form towering above the world beneath him. His body, though aged by eons of solitude, still radiated with the power of the primordial forces. His skin, like the surface of the earth itself, was cracked with the ancient lines of time. His eyes, pools of molten fire, glowed with a knowing gaze that had seen the creation and destruction of worlds. The call had come. Zephyros had awakened the winds, and Erebus had opened the gate of eternal night. Together, they conspired to shatter the delicate balance that Gaia had once held. But Asterios was more than just a guardian of Gaia. He was the embodiment of its strength, its endurance, its very soul. The energy that flowed through him was both destructive and life-giving, the pulse of the planet itself. The ancient Titan clenched his massive fists, feeling the ancient power course through his body. He knew that he could no longer remain hidden in the depths of Gaia. The time for isolation was over. It was time to rise. A meeting of gods, atop Mount Olympus, where the gods of the heavens watched over the mortal realm. Zephyros stood at the center of a gathering. His winds swirled around him, creating a storm of power that echoed across the celestial realm. The gods, each of them magnificent in their own right, stood in a tense circle. Their faces were grim, their eyes filled with the promise of a storm to come. "I feel him," whispered Selene, the goddess of the moon, her voice laced with worry. She gazed into the vastness of the sky, sensing the stirring of ancient forces. "Asterios is not dead. He lives." The last Titan stirs. Zephyros, with his ever-wandering nature, smiled as the winds around him calmed. Indeed, the great Titan stirs, but he is too old, too entrenched in the ways of the earth. He will not stop us. We are gods, Selene, and we command the heavens. Erebus, who had been silent until now, his form a silhouette of shadows, spoke with a voice that resonated like a storm of thunder. "The earth, the source of our power, is dying. Asterios may be a relic, but if we destroy him, we will harness the true essence of Gaia's heart. The land itself will bend to us, and we shall rule forevermore." The gods, divided between power and preservation, murmured their agreement. They had long coveted the land's deepest secrets, its most sacred energies. The gods had learned much from the humans below, but Gaia herself had always been a mystery, an enigma that no god had fully understood. Selene, however, could not quell the unease in her heart. She had loved Asterios once, long ago, before the gods' war had torn them apart. The love between the goddess of the moon and the mighty Titan had been pure, forged in the quiet moments of cosmic silence before the gods' hunger for control had poisoned everything. "Must we destroy him?" she asked, her voice a whisper, not to the gods, but to herself. "Must we sacrifice all for dominion over the earth?" Zephyros turned sharply to face her, his stormy eyes flashing with annoyance. "The time for sentiment is past, Selene. The gods are tired of playing games. Asterios is a threat, and I will see him vanquished before he grows too powerful." Selene's heart trembled, knowing that her former lover, the last of the Titans, would not submit to the gods' rule. He would fight with every ounce of the ancient power he had inherited from Gaia herself. Asterios awakening. Far below in the heart of Gaia, Asterios' transformation began. The energy that had lain dormant for millennia now surged within him, filling every fiber of his being with a purpose he had long abandoned. The earth trembled as he moved, the very landscape quaking beneath his feet. He stretched out his hands, feeling the pulse of the earth like a heartbeat, steady and strong. It was a connection that no god could sever, no weapon could pierce. His body seemed to merge with the land itself, his feet sinking into the soil as if the earth was recognizing him once again. "The time is now," Asterios muttered, his deep voice reverberating like thunder through the caves. "The gods have forgotten that the earth is not theirs to rule. It is a force beyond them." With a single mighty roar, he summoned the powers of Gaia. The sky above him darkened as ancient storms swirled into being. Lightning crackled and thunder boomed as Asterios rose to his full height, his colossal form obscuring the sky. His eyes burned with the intensity of 1,000 suns, and his muscles rippled with the strength of mountains. Asterios was no mere titan. He was the embodiment of the earth itself, a living, breathing force of nature. The battle begins. On the slopes of Mount Olympus, the gods gathered, waiting for the inevitable clash. Zephyros stood tall, his winds whipping around him, while Erebus lingered in the shadows, his presence an ominous threat to the very fabric of the cosmos. Selene, torn between her duty to the gods and the love she still held for Asterios, stood at a distance. She could feel the tremors of the earth beneath her feet, and her heart sank as she gazed at the horizon where the Titan approached. "I must stop this," Selene whispered, her voice full of sorrow. "The earth is in danger. Asterios cannot win this war, but neither can the gods destroy him." Asterios' approach was like an earthquake. His feet left deep impressions in the earth as he crossed the land, each step shaking the heavens themselves. He was unstoppable. His power was so immense that the very fabric of the celestial realm began to crack. The gods stood ready, but Asterios was not one to retreat or to yield. He lifted his hands toward the heavens, calling upon the primal energies of the earth. The winds of Zephyros and the shadows of Erebus were nothing against the power of Gaia. The sky darkened, the air thick with the scent of impending war. A clash of forces. Asterios, in all his primal fury, charged towards the gods, his immense body cutting through the heavens like a giant blade of stone and fury. Zephyros rushed forward, summoning the winds to strike at the Titan's head, but Asterios merely swatted them away with the force of a tidal wave. The god of wind was nothing against the raw might of the earth. Erebus, cloaked in darkness, dove into the shadows and sought to engulf the Titan in eternal night, hoping to weaken Asterios' connection to Gaia. But Asterios' eyes burned brighter than the sun, his vision cutting through the darkness with ease. The battle raged across the sky, with gods and titans clashing in a spectacle of cosmic proportions. Lightning, wind, and shadow swirled around the two forces of nature, but it was clear that Asterios was the more powerful. In the midst of the chaos, Selene descended from the heavens. She had seen enough. Her love for Asterios had not faded. It had only grown stronger in his absence. But now, She saw the destruction caused by their rivalry. She had to stop it. Asterios, she cried out, her voice cutting through the storm. This battle cannot continue. You must not fight the gods. You must not destroy them. The choice of the Titan. Asterios paused, his hands raised above the gods, his eyes filled with the fury of ages. He could feel Gaia's energy coursing through him, but now, as he gazed into Selene's eyes, something inside him shifted. The love they once shared, the bond that had been broken by the gods' war, seemed to beckon him. I cannot stop this, he whispered. The earth is at risk, and the gods have grown corrupt. Selene approached, her heart heavy with the weight of their shared history. There is another way. We do not have to destroy everything. We can restore balance. Asterios, the world needs both the gods and the earth. You and I, we can heal the rift, but you must choose, war or peace. Asterios stood still, torn between the earth that had birthed him and the love he had once known. The winds of Zephyros howled, and Erebus's shadows pressed down upon him. But in that moment, Asterios understood. The true strength of a Titan was not in destruction, but in the ability to preserve and protect. The Titan lowered his hands, the sky clearing as the storm of war began to abate. He turned his gaze to Selene and made his choice. A new alliance. The winds of Zephyros had settled, and the shadows of Erebus began to recede into the folds of the cosmos. The once tumultuous skies began to clear, revealing the fragile threads that bound the earth and the heavens together. Asterios stood, his towering form no longer a figure of destruction but one of resolve. His colossal frame, still draped in the very essence of Gaia, seemed to pulse with the energy of life itself. Selene, standing before him, felt the weight of their shared history. The gods had caused this rift, this war, but they had also failed to understand the delicate balance that held the universe together. The earth was not just a realm to be conquered, nor were the gods to rule it unchecked. We must speak with them, Asterios said, his voice a deep rumble that resonated like a distant earthquake. His eyes still glowed with the intensity of the primal forces within him, but the fire now carried a sense of clarity. The gods think they control the earth, but they do not understand it. They do not understand us. Selene nodded, her expression filled with sadness but also a flicker of hope. We cannot let this war continue. We have the power to change the course of history, Asterios, but it requires that we unite. The Titan's gaze softened as he turned his eyes toward the distant horizon. How can we unite with those who wish to destroy me? He asked, his voice tinged with doubt. The bitterness of the gods' betrayal still lingered in his heart. Selene placed her hand gently on his shoulder. The gods are not beyond redemption, but we must show them the truth that the earth cannot be divided between gods and titans. We must remind them that life is not about dominance, but about balance. Asterios remained silent for a long moment, the weight of the decision heavy in his heart. Finally, with a sigh that seemed to echo through the cosmos, he nodded. Very well, Selene. I will stand with you. We will seek to heal what has been broken. The Council of Gods. In the ethereal halls of Mount Olympus, the gods gathered in silence. The sky above them shimmered with the faintest traces of lingering storm clouds, a sign of the battle that had just unfolded. Zephyros stood at the center, his expression one of defiance. Erebus, still cloaked in darkness, was a shadow among them. The rest of the gods stood in anticipation, each one uncertain of how to proceed. "It is done," Zephyros said, his voice a sharp gust of wind. "The Titan is broken. He will not rise against us again." But Selene, with a heart burdened by the past and the present, stepped forward. Her presence illuminated the room like the moon itself, a beacon of clarity in the midst of the gods' unrest. "No, Zephyros," Selene said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "The battle is not over. We have no victory to claim yet. Asterios has chosen not to fight, but that does not mean he is defeated." The gods looked at her with confusion and even a hint of anger. Was she truly questioning the power of the gods? Was she siding with the Titan? Zephyros sneered. "You speak as though he has already won, Selene. Asterios is nothing but an old relic. He does not understand the nature of true power." Selene's eyes, however, remained unyielding. "Power alone is not what defines us. It is balanced understanding that makes us whole. If we continue to fight, if we continue to destroy, we will only hasten the end of all things. Not just Gaia, not just the gods, but all existence." Erebus finally spoke, his voice like a rumble of thunder from the deepest corners of the cosmos. "Selene speaks truth, but that does not mean we should accept weakness. Asterios will not be allowed to roam free, no matter the plea for peace. His existence is a threat to the divine order." The room grew tense. The air itself seemed to crackle with the tension between the gods, torn between their desire for supremacy and the emerging realization that something far greater than themselves was at stake. "I will speak with him," Selene declared, her gaze unwavering. "I will speak with Asterios. If we are to heal this world, it must begin with understanding, not domination." The gods murmured among themselves, hesitant. Yet, there was no denying the truth in Selene's words. Finally, with a reluctant nod, the council agreed to allow her to meet Asterios, to seek a resolution. The Titan's path. Asterios stood at the edge of a vast cliff, gazing out over the earth. The land stretched endlessly before him, the pulse of Gaia beneath his feet steady and true. He could feel the heartbeat of the planet, its rhythm strong despite the chaos that had gripped it. The gods sought dominion, but they had failed to understand the true nature of what they wished to control. Selene approached, her silvery light casting a glow on the rocks beneath her. She walked toward the Titan, her presence both comforting and tragic. She had always been the moon to his earth, a guiding force in the darkness. But now, their paths had diverged. "Asterios," Selene called softly, her voice carrying across the winds. The Titan turned, his molten eyes meeting hers. "You are the only one who ever understood me, Selene. The only one who saw beyond the power and the destruction." Selene's heart tightened. "I still understand you, but the time for destruction is over. We cannot keep fighting Asterios. The gods may have wronged us, but we must show them a better way, not through force, but through unity." Asterios looked down at her, his towering form casting a shadow over her. "I have fought for eons, Selene, for the earth, for Gaia, but the gods have only sought to bend the land to their will. They will never understand our way of life, but you understand it, Asterios, and I know the gods will, too, if you help me show them," Selene urged. "Please, For the sake of everything we have fought for, let us not destroy each other. Let us rebuild what we once had." Asterios stood in silence, torn between the love he once had for the goddess and the rage he felt for the gods who had turned their backs on him. But beneath it all, a glimmer of hope remained, a hope that the earth could still be saved, not by destruction, but by understanding. "Very well," Asterios said, his voice heavy with the weight of the world. "I will stand with you, Selene, for Gaia, for balance, a new era." The gods of Mount Olympus gathered once more, this time with no weapons in hand. Their eyes were filled with wariness but also curiosity. They had never expected this. They had never expected Asterios to yield, much less come to them with a plea for peace. Asterios and Selene stood before them, side by side, two forces that once seemed destined to be enemies, now united in their desire for harmony. The sky above, once fractured with the scars of their battle, began to clear as a new dawn broke. Zephyros crossed his arms, his winds still restless but quieter now. "You stand before us, Asterios. What is it you seek?" The Titan's gaze never wavered as he answered, "The earth cannot be ruled by the gods alone, and neither can the gods exist without the earth. If we are to survive, we must work together, restore the balance that has been broken." Erebus, who had been silent throughout, finally spoke. "We have learned much, Asterios. Perhaps the time has come for us to listen rather than demand." Selene smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in centuries. The battle had ended, not with the clash of weapons, but with the promise of a new beginning.